Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview inspiring, fascinating women who are navigating aging with class and sass. I'm your host, Nicole Christina. Hey everyone, I am so grateful for all of the downloads, and I'd love a rating on iTunes and a comment. And please subscribe. It helps the show's rating so other people can find it and learn how to age well. And if you are loving the podcast, why not check out the companion online course, Zestful Aging, Simple and Sustainable Habits for Health and Longevity. You can access it through my website, NicoleChristina.com/Zestful Aging. It's based on the Harvard study of adult development, and I'm really proud of how it's turned out. Well, I've got my coffee in my hand and my trusty dog Sparky beside me, so let's begin. Today, my guest is Jill Dodd, a former top model and founder of the surf brand Roxy. Jill's book, The Currency of Love, A Courageous Journey to Finding Love Within, takes us through her difficult and traumatic childhood, through her international modeling career, and her relationship as a pleasure wife to a billionaire Saudi arms dealer. And thank you so much for joining me today, Jill.
Thank you for having me.
This was a courageous book to write. It's such a tell-all, and it reveals a lot about your upbringing and your relationship with your lover, Adnan. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I always just called him Adnan.
Adnan.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any flack from about revealing these really? No, you haven't.
I haven't, and yeah, surprisingly, yeah, I am in touch with some of his family members, and we have a good relationship. And they just see the mutual love that I have for him, and appreciation for who he was beyond the headlines of political things that he was involved with. We all know the person, and so they appreciate the more personal character traits that I wrote about with him.
It's interesting because, talking about being a pleasure wife, talking about being in a harem is so sensational and so dramatic. And I wonder how it is to talk to people about that without getting kind of sidelined into all of the, what it sounds like and the drama of that. Right. Are you able to have conversation, meaningful? Yes, you are.
I am. Initially when people hear the word harem, they have all these visions in their mind of what that is. And because I'm a brutally honest person, I, explain what it was really like if someone really wants to know, but it's probably not anything like what people just imagine right off, unless they've had some experience with it. Mm-hmm. So, I'm able to have conversations about it. When I was younger, there was a lot of shame involved. For me, I felt I still hadn't come to terms with it. So when it was brought up when I was younger, I felt more embarrassed and ashamed to talk about it. But now that I'm older, it's much easier to deal with, and I don't carry that shame anymore. I think that the shame is the thing that makes the difference of being able to talk about something and not being able to talk about it.
Right. I would imagine. I would imagine that takes some confidence because people don't understand it. It sounds so, it sounds like a movie. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like something, you don't get the sense that, wait a minute, this was a loving, tender relationship you had.
Right.
And it sounds, and nobody is surprised given what you talk about, in your childhood.
Right, right. In fact, I didn't want, or initially, I didn't want to talk about my childhood at all in my memoir. I didn't want to bring my parents into it, but I spoke with people in the publishing industry, all the people that guided me through the publication of the book, and everyone said the same thing. They all said that if you don't explain your upbringing, then it doesn't make sense to the reader why you would have gotten into all of this trouble, why you'd been attacked, why you were so naive, why you were drawn to these things that so many people would have run away from. But to me, they were familiar because of my upbringing, because I was raised in a sexually inappropriate home by a father obsessed with pornography and very chauvinistic and macho and misogynistic, and the woman, my mother was treated as a sex object, as a beautiful sex object. So I was raised thinking that was my currency, beauty and sex. And it's like being, I don't want to say raised in a cult, but it's like being brainwashed into thinking those are your values. But thank God he also taught me to work hard and taught me a lot of skills. So that gave me confidence. And at the same time that I was exposed to all these things that were inappropriate, he was also my friend, and we had a good relationship. So it's complicated, I mean, it's not just black and white. It's very gray.
And it never is. I mean, I think, as a therapist, I can tell you there's such profound mixed feelings because that's your daddy, and he loves you. I was thinking about a scene that you describe in the book where you're sitting at the table and your mom's robe is open. She's naked and he's touching her like it was at the kitchen table or something.
Right. It was just constant foreplay. And sometimes she was just absolutely naked with no robe, but the robe didn't even cover her, private parts at all. It was just hanging open. And it was just a constant sex show. I mean, they didn't have complete intercourse in front of us, but he was just fondling her body with his mouth and his hands in front of us every day. And it was disgusting, but we weren't allowed to leave the table or wherever it was going on. And sometimes it was in the car where we couldn't get out. And, it disgusted my sister and I, but we were forced to be there.
So, yes.
And I didn't know growing up. Of course, I thought that, I probably thought every home was like this. I probably thought this was normal. And then as a young adult, I never considered it sexual abuse because my father hadn't raped me. I thought that was the only form of sexual abuse. And while I was writing the book, it was so helpful because I went on these government websites about the exploitation of children and sexual abuse in children. And I learned that children being forced to see pornography, children being forced to see sex acts in their home is sexual abuse. And it makes sense that it is. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that
norm.
I didn't have that out to forgive myself for my own behavior and my own naivete, because what I learned through these government websites is that in particular they talk a lot about foster children that are sexualized in foster homes.
One of what occurs to me, you're talking about this sort of cultish, sexualized family, but what we know, of course, is that the society reinforces this
Yes.
every single place. So it's not like you were, like some extreme religions and then you go to the mall and nobody else is doing that.
Right,
You
right.
went out to society and everyone was saying, that's right. That's
Yeah.
what you're about is,
Yeah.
what's your figure like? Are you pretty?
Yep.
Or are you hot or whatever? So
Right.
you had there. I use the word sometimes with clients. It was overdetermined. There was no way you weren't going to,
Go that
embrace
way.
that. Absolutely.
Right. Well, yeah, I got involved with the fashion business. And when I was a fit model, for example, there were comments about my body, but they weren't sexual because it was more of a manufacturing industry, and luckily I wound up in a very respectful company. But as soon as I started modeling, then that's when I ran into all these unsavory characters, because a lot of people are drawn to that to take advantage of the young women. But yeah, society is totally that way. I mean, in especially back then, just TV commercials and everything was all about the woman being used for sex for the men. It was just completely that type of society.
How has the Me Too movement impacted you?
Well, when it first hit, when Harvey Weinstein's situations came to light, it threw me into a post-traumatic stress disorder tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up suffering with extreme depression and became suicidal. I was having nightmares and flashbacks. And I've dealt with post-traumatic stress disorder in the past with this. And I wasn't expecting it to hit me at all. And I thought I had dealt with this stuff, but I was remembering things that I had completely pushed underneath the surface and completely pushed down into my subconscious and had forgotten about. So I was remembering things that had been suppressed, and I was a real mess.
Talking about Me Too, did you know some of the people that he
Yes.
assaulted? Oh my goodness.
Well, actually, I don't know the people he assaulted, but I was assaulted by some of the people that were being brought up. James Toback completely assaulted me and trapped me in his house. And when I went on the Instagram sites of the different models that I'm in contact with, with the Me Too movement, we have all been assaulted by a lot of the same agents and photographers. So that was very triggering. And I was reading those notes and those letters that models were writing, and that's what really hit me, because it was exactly what had happened to me. So I actually landed in the hospital, and I had to go on depression, an additional depression medication. So I'm good now, and I had to start therapy again, and I've already had a lot of therapy. I didn't want to do it again, but I had to process some more things. But the interesting thing to me was that the experiences that I talked about in my book didn't come back to haunt me. I had processed them so much during my writing.
Right. Of course. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so all those things, I was good. But the things I hadn't addressed yet, those were the things that crept up on me.
Do you think in general that the modeling career has always been such I mean, forgive me, but it sounds like it's sort of a cesspool.
Yeah, I was going to say the word cesspool. It is, and it always has been.
It always has been. I mean, it does seem like it's just there, you have young girls really wanting to make it, and ambitious and hopeful, maybe away from home for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It just sounds like it's sort of easy pickings
It is.
if you're a perpetrator.
Right, right. It really is. There are men in power that are older than the young girls, and I believe it's always been this way. There's a book, called Modeling the Ugly Business of Beautiful Women. It's by Michael Gross, and he chronicles the history of modeling. And I believe he even goes back into the ballet life of Paris, where there were men that were sleeping with the ballerinas and providing for them. And there have always been older men preying upon younger, naive women. And the women have many times taken advantage of it as a means of survival. So, there are uglier parts, there are survival aspects.
I remember you also talking about being exhausted and jet lagged because you were traveling internationally and there would be long shoots.
Right. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. That's just part of the deal. Yeah, it's very physically taxing.
And then you had dear friends, but also women who were competing with you.
Right.
For jobs.
Right. 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 It was a pretty, I would have to say it was a pretty friendly competition. I mean, most, at least for me, I was never one that was being cutthroat and trying to, step on one girl to take the job away. It's funny, I met with a friend of mine. She read the book and she was with me in Paris. And we met for dinner a couple of weeks ago. It was so fun. And we were just, recalling everything that we went through. And we were both saying how neither one of us were the type to step on another girl to try to make our life better. We were always saying, hey, there's an interview here. Why don't you come with me? Maybe you'll get the job. So we weren't all out for ourselves. There were definitely women that were like that. But I would say that most of the girls that I knew were really nice.
I don't know if I mentioned this in our communications, but I specialize in eating disorders. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've been doing that for about 25 years. And so, I wasn't surprised to hear that you had struggled with that as well. And I think that's just probably par for the course because you have to be underweight.
Right. Right.
That's the norm.
Yeah, I'd say that most models definitely deal with that at some point. You're constantly pushed to be thinner, and it's a really hard thing to attain and to keep, especially as you're growing. When you start as a teenager, you're if you're tall and thin, it's pretty natural. But as you start developing into womanhood, our bodies just naturally get a little bit softer and curvier, and you're trying to stop that, and it's a real struggle.
Yeah,
and
I think athletes have the same dilemma.
Yeah, definitely, especially ballerinas.
Yes.
So yeah, it becomes a mental issue at some point. It becomes an obsession, and you're constantly trying to fight your own human urges to eat.
And you were in Paris, surrounded by gorgeous food.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anywhere. I mean, we're so fortunate. In America, had beautiful food. In Paris, there was beautiful food. Yeah.
Hey there. More of the interview in just a second. Now it's time for a quick shameless plug for my Zestful Aging web course and my newsletter, Breathe, Taste, Savor. Hop on over to NicoleChristina.com/Zestful Aging, no spaces, to find out more. So as a woman, from a young age, you had been given so much reinforcement, so much attention for your physical appearance, even though you obviously have a lot of other talents. And I know you did design work and you worked really hard in school and all of that, but people saw you as, physically beautiful. How has aging been for you?
Oh, it's so great. It's such a relief. I love it. It's so nice. Well, I'm 58 now,
Mm-hmm.
and people still think that I'm 40, which is kind of odd because, like a man will talk to me and sort of like be flirting with me, and I'm looking at him like, are you serious? I think you could be my son.
Oh,
And
no.
I think it's funny and I don't take it serious, but yeah, but it's weird. People do think I'm younger than I am, but I don't wear any makeup unless, maybe I'm going out to dinner with my husband, maybe wear a tiny bit of makeup, but I'm very dressed down. I don't have the need to be, I don't have the need for approval anymore about my body or my looks. Where
Wow, what a difference.
it's
What a
it's
transformation.
very freeing. It's very freeing.
Do you have daughters or
Yes, I have two
children?
daughters.
Tell
Hmm.
tell me about raising your daughters in light of what you know and what you've experienced.
Yeah, well, they know that I've got their back and they know what's out there in the world because I've warned them and they've seen things themselves. They're both beautiful. Um, and it's something that we deal with every day, how to protect yourself. And I have a huge emphasis, with them on their intelligence and their own power and
Mm-hmm.
their intuition and who they are as a woman spiritually. Of course, I don't put their, I try not to have them put their value on their beauty. Um, you know, I, but it's definitely, I mean, society has the pressures, but I'm on the other side going, you're worth your value for who you are inside and the way your mind thinks and your emotions and who you are. And I teach them to be strong. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I try to do a good job as a mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and do they talk to you about some of the sort of the conflict of it feeling good to be recognized for beauty, but
Yes.
also not wanting to get too invested in it?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. My older daughter is more cautious. And so she talks about it, but she has a naturally cautious personality. My younger one is a lot more aggressive and a lot more out there. So she's like hanging onto a wild horse. But we have those discussions basically every day because she's a YouTuber and
Uh-huh.
she has a video blog and she gets a lot of attention, a lot of feedback for how she looks, but also for her personality. And I try to focus on the personality part of it. And I tried to hold her back from that business because it's so similar to modeling, but she's really good at it. She loves it. It's kind of like having her own reality show. So I just try to influence her as much as I can to keep sexualization out of it. And um,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard though. She's young, so we
And
definitely deal with that in our
it's so
house.
interesting because you're describing, of course, the hypersexualization of your field and the family and all that, but then you add on Snapchat and
Right.
Instagram. It's a world that we were not exposed to.
Hmm. Yeah, and
It's
they
a
have
whole new
access to it.
level.
They have access to it when they're 12 years old, when they're not prepared to deal with what they're seeing
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know what's appropriate. So it's been a constant battle with
Mm-hmm.
my youngest daughter. But she's almost 18. She's definitely matured a lot, and I'm able to kind of pull back a little bit. But I'm constantly watching for I just don't want her to sell herself out. I want her to be the one in control. So yeah, it's definitely in my life big
I
time.
can
It's
imagine.
like a full time. job.
Oh, I think many mothers of daughters would say the exact same thing.
Yeah,
That they
yeah.
feel like they're holding back the tide
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it feels like.
What are you doing now? The book was just published in 2017. Are
Right.
you still designing? And
Well,
what's your life like now?
I do a few things. I'm working on getting a film and TV agent because everyone who reads the book thinks it should be a movie.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a couple of production houses that have reached out to me about doing a Hulu series or an HBO series or a film. But I'm waiting for the right group of people. I really want it to be done. I would love it to be done by the women in the U2 movement in Hollywood, like Nicole
Mm-hmm.
Kidman, Reese Witherspoon,
Oh, you want it done
Natalie
right,
Portman.
tastefully.
I want
Yeah.
it done right. So I'm working on getting an agent for that. I'm constantly doing, not constantly, but I do book events. Probably every other week, I have a big gathering where I do a book club or I work with a women's group where we all, where they've either read the book or interested in the book or they're writers that I help encourage them on writing their own memoir. So I'm doing a lot of speaking in women's groups about
Mm-hmm.
all of these topics about exploitation and telling your own story and finding your voice and not being afraid to let your voice out there. And
Is that what brought you to Women at Woodstock?
actually, I went to Women at Woodstock because I wanted to meet some of the writers that were going to be there. They were some of my friends on Facebook that I'd had conversations with, and I
Mm-hmm.
knew they were going to be there. So I went to meet them and to learn about writing. So that's what brought me there, but it was a very empowering place. It was incredible. It really had a big impact on me. It was
I
very
hear that a
empowering.
lot. I hear that a lot. Um, this might be a tough one, and I think, my field struggles with it, and we try to understand it. But you are the poster child for resilience.
Thank you.
Just what you have been through, just the ongoing
Yeah.
challenges. And I wonder if you have any advice for some of our listeners who are middle aged and over and maybe kind of going through their own difficult times, trying to kind of metabolize some of the struggles they've had.
Hmm.
And I'm just wondering if you have anything to say about resilience and
Hmm.
transformation as a woman.
Right. Yeah, I do. Um, the way I can just say the way that I do it, because I am resilient. I've been in and left two abusive marriages. I've raised children as a single mother. I've started companies and had them stolen from me and had to start over again. But basically, what I do is I gather myself, try to get healthy, because if you're not healthy mentally and emotionally, if I'm not healthy mentally and emotionally, I can't do anything. So I've turned to therapy, and I have to be on antidepressants. I wish I didn't, but it's just a given to
Mm-hmm.
my own brain chemistry and my own health. And then, of course, being active, I can't. I've got to be active, and I try to, walk a lot or just whatever's easy. But I definitely
Mm-hmm.
try to move my body. But the deeper things than that are setting goals. I'm a big goal setter. And it may take me years to get there, but I set the goal and I don't stop until I reach it. It takes a lot to discourage me. It took
Mm-hmm.
8 years to get my book written and published, but I was determined. So when I have a failure, I sit back and I try to learn from it. I don't victimize myself. I did that when I was younger. I would feel sorry for myself. I would cry when I'd get pushed back or get if someone didn't accept me or didn't accept my work. It would hurt me. Now I try to learn from it and move forward. I don't wallow in the rejection because we're all going to face rejection and failure. So I think embracing my imperfection and being okay with the fact that I make mistakes, I don't know everything, I screw up, but I'm glad I'm human. I'm glad I'm imperfect, and I accept that. But not victimizing, setting goals, sticking with your goals, and just making tiny steps toward them, because it doesn't happen overnight. None of these, you set a goal, and a big goal especially does not happen quickly. So you just have to remain focused on your goal and find a way to get there.
Are you a fan of Brene Brown with her?
I do like her books.
Embracing Imperfection.
Yes, I loved her book. Yes.
I don't know if you saw Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love author, talk about, it was a documentary on PBS talking about antidepressants and saying, wish I didn't have to, but
didn't.
I do.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
I thought that'd be nice for you to hear, since she's so many people's heroine. And
wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. No, that's great. I love her book on creativity too. And even if you're not in the creative field of, like I'm always in the creative field. I'm a painter. I'm a ceramicist. But even just to live creatively and think outside the box of what you can do with your life. Maybe you're single again as an older woman, not where you ever thought you would be, but that it raises so many opportunities to start your life and create your life the way you want it to be. I think that we have to take responsibility for our own happiness and make the life that we want as much as we can, as much as we can control it, and seek help in getting it. Get a support group of common-minded women that encourage each other for change. So I think that's really important too, to
a community.
Have a community of women that, it can happen in a book club, it can happen at church, it can happen in so many ways.
Yes, that is, and that's one of the big pillars of aging well, is to be in community.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be, doing macrame. It's just that you feel a sense of belonging and that people see you, they get you, and you don't have to pretend you're somebody else.
I do ceramics, and the whole group of women that do ceramics together, it's a huge support. Yeah, it could be anything.
Could be anything. There's a physician. He just came out with a book. His name is Ed Hallowell, and he's a big guy in ADD, ADHD treatment. He just published a book on growing up with mentally ill parents and talking about the stigma of mental illness and how he really beat the odds. Because if you look at some of the ways that we kind of score trauma, he's off the chart, and he should never have succeeded.
Right.
And so he's written this book, and I was interested in looking at it, but I thought you might also be interested.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Ed Hallowell.
Hallowell, and it's Hallowell, I think.
Okay.
But you'll be able to. It's Edward, and he's a physician, and he does tons of work on ADD. That's his specialty, and he has ADD, so he knows. Yeah. So I just want to say, and I'm sure you've heard this before, Jill, but you're such an inspiration, and I really appreciate how you've told the truth here, even though I'm sure it wasn't always easy.
Right.
And I guess I just wanted to really say that and recognize that, and I hope other people read your book and really can understand, all of what's gone in your life, the good stuff, the triumphs, the excitement, being on Vogue, all of that, but also what you've had to go through and overcome. It's really miraculous, and I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I learned that when I keep secrets or when I try to hide the truth, like when I was younger, I was ashamed of what my house was like with my parents. I was ashamed of so many decisions that I made, or mistakes that I made, or failures. But throughout life, I've gone through some severe trials, and I've learned that the more I try to suppress my story, the more it hurts me. And the more I'm able to talk about things, the less shame that I feel. It's like you can be set free from shame. And you'll find that if you're brave enough to tell your story, you'll find that everybody goes through these same things. It's just that people are afraid to talk about it.
And you're really at, the perfect time in history when we're seeing this turning point of women keeping their secrets and saying, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's a burden.
Hurting me.
It is. Yep. It's a burden. It's almost like it bores a hole in your heart. It's too much to carry. It's too much to carry. We need to be free from the things that have happened to us. It's too much of a burden to carry around.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, being a more mature woman has been very unburdening, and you have a perspective, and you still struggle at times, but there's a new lightness and a new sort of sense of adventure and opportunity, which I think is what we all want at this age.
Definitely.
Yeah, a new start.
Right, definitely. And I'm always looking to the future, to what's next and what can I do, and
your curiosity.
Yeah, and the next phase of life, And I embrace change too. I love change. So not everybody loves change, but I do.
Well, that's fortunate, because it does seem like that's what life is about,
Yeah, I think that if you don't like change, life is a real struggle, because life changes even if you don't want it to. So it's probably best to just embrace it.
I think you're right on that. Thanks so much for sharing your story with our listeners. Where is the best place to find you, Jill?
Well, I have a website. It's just jilldodd.com. My email's on the website. And I'm on Instagram it's just Jill Dodd, basically. I don't do Facebook very much, but through my website is perfect. And then my book's available on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble. There's an ebook, like electronic. There's also an audiobook. So if you don't like to read, you can just lay there and listen to the story, which is
Do you
fun.
read that, or does an actor read that?
An actor is reading it. Yeah. By the time I finished the book, I was just exhausted.
Done.
So I was happy to have someone else do it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens with your screenplay and with the film project.
Yeah, I know. I think it would be really fun. I'd really enjoy it. I think it would, I'm just looking for more adventure, and I just really enjoy life. I enjoy adventure. Yeah, I do. I love it.
Thank you so much for being with us
Thanks,
today.
Nicole. Thanks for having me, and you're so insightful. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. Please subscribe, comment, and rate me on iTunes. I love those 5 stars. Like and share. Those actions help other people find the show. And I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com and tell me what you'd like to hear more about. Want more zest? Head over to NicoleChristina.com/Zestful Aging, no spaces, where you can find my companion online course, Zestful Aging, Simple and Sustainable Habits for Health and Longevity. see you next time for another episode of Zestful Aging.